blue-collar worker here. It's been literally like a year, actually over a year since the last video, and a lot has happened since then. I was supposed to make some grand recap edit of the whole year, but given the time I have off work, I figured I should just put something out here so that I can kind of build that momentum and consistency. At some point, I do hope to get around to making some visual recap of 2023 because there were some cool moments and some footage I got that I haven't been able to use yet. Just probably not right now. I've always been stuck between wanting to make something like super cool and serious or cinematic, or like making something amateur, chaotic, and just plain fun. I know you can have fun doing both, but you get what I'm saying. Stuff like gaming reactions or like commentary on whatever it is I want to talk about. I know like the best way to grow is to try and stick to one thing and make that your niche or whatever, but I think I'd be able to at least post more consistently if I have some sort of variety, because I think the biggest factor for me is just the enjoyment of it and how fulfilling it feels. I think the mistake I made before was just like thinking of the end result too much. And I have that problem in a lot of areas in my life, but thinking of the end result too much and getting ahead of myself, is that not the same thing? But basically, I'm just trying to say I want to make stuff just for the sake of making stuff, and if I so happen to be able to make money off of it later on, then that'd be great. But for now, my main focus is just creating for the sake of creating, because I feel like I have lost touch with that, and I think that's really important to be able to just keep going and to just also improve as a creative and as a person. Ghostin is my passion project / clothing brand. It's a double meaning for ghosting, to disappear, and ghost as in like my love for horror. I'm mainly focusing on the aesthetics of horror, media, and minimalism with some added utility. I made most of the products have some sort of utility, whether it's being able to customize it with patches, attach keychains and other accessories, or like change the way you wear it. Check us out on IG and TikTok at ghostin.co. That's there because Ghostin was taken on those platforms, but it kind of fits because we ended up moving to Colorado. Anyways, it's basically also the website URL. I want to use the brand as a way to advocate for mental health and eventually be able to donate or help out in other ways, so I appreciate any type of support and I can't wait to release more cool shit. Back to the video. So if you know me in real life or follow me on socials, then you've probably seen the Spice Girls. I feel bad for only talking about them now when they've been such an important part of my life for the last few years. So the Spice Girls are my emotional support mice. And they're called the Spice Girls because they're named after spices. This is where I introduced them and all that.
Girl, there's a piece of food on you!
So I'm gonna try and sum things up to where we are today, even though there's a lot more lore and all that. I might get into it in another video. So back in Guam, I got influenced by Rachel to get on like the rodent train. And to be fair, it wasn't that hard because I already love animals, like a lot. She developed an interest for rats because of like how smart and cute they were. And she kept showing me videos of them. And eventually, I got influenced. I wanted to get one too, but Guam didn't sell any domesticated rats. So that was a big barrier. But one day, on a whim, we went to go check out a local pet store just to see the animals. And then we saw a bunch of mice going for $5 each. I was super tempted to just get a few right then and there, but I controlled my ADHD impulse and said, If they get any cheaper, it's a sign, and I'll get them then. So about a week passed, and then we ended up going to a different pet store to browse again. And as you can guess, they had mice as well, but for $3 this time. So we asked them if we could get the two biggest female mice they had.
But what the hell, boy?
And we were thinking of names in the car, and eventually we decided to go for a spice theme, which is the origin of the Spice Girls. And our very first two Spice Girls were Basil and Chives. Aww. Actually, no, their legal names are Basil, Boston, and Hanson, and Chives, Pepper Jones. So about a year after, we got Sesame and Paprika. I gotta go find their names real quick. 1 second. Damn it, where did I put the fucking... Sesame semi-automatic Segway. Paprika's legal name is Caprico Papilloma Pumpernickel Presidente. So, we called Basil and Chives the Kiwis, and we called Sesame and Paprika the Cotton Girls, because they look like balls of cotton, and then the two original girls look like Kiwis. The Spice Girls have their own subcategories. So fast forward to 2023, and from the move to Denver up to now, we adopted 4 new mice around summertime. They were from this cool adoption center called Dumb Friends League. Great name, by the way. So we got Thyme, Nutmeg, Pepper, and Scully. And we changed 3 of their names to spice names, because originally it was Billy, Arden, Butters, and Scully. But after, it became Thyme, Nutmeg, Pepper, and Scully. We went there on our day off to scope out the mice, because we were kind of looking online to see what mice they had available. We were only supposed to get 2, but since Thyme, Nutmeg, and Pepper were all in the same cage, if we got 2, it would just leave 1 mouse alone, and female mice need to have company or they're gonna get depressed. So the new adoption count was 3, but then I saw Scully, and she's a bit older than the other 3, and she's very unique. She has frizzy fur, and she has a head tilt, and her head twitches a lot. She was in a separate cage by herself, and she looked really sad because she's been by herself for who knows how long. And we asked them what her situation was. So her sisters got sold to PetSmart, but she didn't make the cut because of her head tilt, and she's a bit of an oddball. So they probably thought she wouldn't sell or something. We thought it was charming, and I did not want to leave Scully there. And luckily, the head tilt, it's usually an indicator of bad health, but for her it wasn't, because they've done a bunch of tests on her, and her health is fine. She just kind of has that. Just basically, she's a little quirky. I felt so bad because she's been alone for who knows how long, and I could not just leave her there. And I also decided that she should keep her name because it just felt very fitting. She's such a Scully. I don't know if that makes sense. So I came back the next day after I called in sick from work.
This might be a bit
and harder. I left with 4 mice.
Let's do it. Oh, look at them. They're ready. Come on, girls. Let's go meet your auntie.
So we had a huge mouse family, and I was just happy to see them all interacting. It took a while for them to get along, and they still have fights. They would still have fights every now and then. I'm looking at Nutmeg and Pepper. But overall, they accepted each other, and it was nice seeing the new girls make friends with the older ones. I wish it lasted forever. Around October, we lost our first mouse. And surprisingly, it wasn't any of the girls from Guam. It was Thyme. We never really knew what caused her to die so young, but after describing what happened to the vet, their assumption was that she had a tumor. And, we were heartbroken because out of the 3 youngest mice, she was the one who was warming up to us the fastest. And she was, very friendly and energetic. It was also just a horrible feeling to not have been able to give her, a full and happy life like the rest of the girls. We had about 4 months of enjoying our time with the girls. After that before we lost Chives. Her and Basil were our first mice. And honestly, our sweetest mice. Chives was so affectionate and energetic when she was younger. She was the only mouse we've had that ever gave kisses. As she got older though, she was less social and stopped giving kisses altogether. But we're still just grateful to have her around for such a long time. But losing her was still painful. I think Basil took Chives' death the hardest among the girls. A few months before Chives passed, we noticed Basil had a growth on her eye and on her ear. Since we knew how prone mice were to tumors, we kind of feared the worst. We took her to the vet and they said it was likely a tumor, but they said it could also just be an infection in the eye and ear. The way they gave the news to us, it was kind of like, well, having a growth in more than one place in the body at once is like a sign of a malignant tumor instead of a benign one, which they can just cut off and we're all good. So it wasn't looking good. But they, they did want to make sure they could rule everything out before just saying it was a tumor. So they also looked at what else it could be, and they said it could just be infections on the ear and the eye. And we were hoping and praying it wasn't a tumor, and miraculously it wasn't. So they sent us home with antibiotics, and Basil made a full recovery, and she honestly looked like her old self. Basil was the oldest mouse in the cage, and it almost seemed like once Chives passed, she had some sense of her own mortality, and it felt like she just wanted to keep spending time with us. She'd be up in the morning to greet us before work. She'd be the first one looking out of the cage to greet us when we came back at night. She'd even walk on our hand just to get some pets. Basil still had good energy and appetite for a mouse her age, but we noticed she couldn't eat as fast, and we had to start giving her like easier to eat foods. So we bought mealworms. I made her like scrambled eggs every now and then. We got baby food, and it was like working for a bit. But after a few weeks, we took her to the vet because she was losing weight fast. We knew it was like it comes with aging, but the vet said she was healthy, and we just left that day with some weight gainer to give her extra calories through like a syringe. Not injecting her, but like feeding her through a syringe. She loved the weight gainer, and she would like snatch the syringe with energy I have not seen from her since the glory days. I thought this was a good sign and that she would have many months with us still. Unfortunately, I was wrong. We lost Basil just a few days after that vet visit. It was a little over 3 weeks since Chives had passed. But Basil's death hit the hardest because we were just done eating dinner, and I was about to go pick her up to feed her. Then I noticed that she was laying there instead of her usual reaction to me lifting up their hideout. I could tell from her difficulty breathing that her time was running out. I picked her up gently, and we spent her last moments with her before she left. That shit got me crying my eyes out. I missed them so much. It hurt extra because it felt like on her last day she just kept wanting to see us, but since we thought it was just another day, we were putting off picking her up from the cage to take care of stuff around the apartment, since we don't have much time after work to do those things. And I felt so shitty because the 4 OG girls were so used to us being home all the time back in Guam because we were self-employed. And I feel like when we moved here, they might have thought that we just didn't want to spend time with them anymore. And I hated my job so much already, but I hated it even more for taking me away from them. I still miss them, but I'll always be glad that I got to spend their whole lives with them.